You came in looking like something had just gone wrong.
That obvious? I had a phone call about an hour ago. A simple one, nothing complicated, just confirming an appointment. And the moment the person answered, nothing. My mind went completely blank, and I ended up saying, sorry, wrong number, and hanging up.
You hung up on your own appointment.
I did. I stood there afterwards feeling ridiculous. The number is still in my phone. I haven't called back yet.
Can I ask you something before we go anywhere with this? When you say your mind went blank, do you mean you didn't know the words or something else was happening?
That's actually what bothers me most. I knew the words. I had even practiced a little before I called. I know how to say, I'm calling to confirm. I know how to say, could you check that for me? The words were there, but the second someone answered, it all just vanished.
That's a really important thing to name because most people who come to me about phone calls in English assume it's a vocabulary problem. They want more phrases. And phrases help, they genuinely do. But what you're describing is something different.
It felt almost physical, like a door closing. The voice on the other end said, hello, and I felt this sudden pressure, like I had to respond perfectly and immediately or the whole thing would fall apart.
That pressure is real, and it's very specific to phone calls. Think about what's missing on a phone call compared to a face-to-face conversation. No facial expressions, no body language. You can't see the other person nodding or waiting patiently. All you have is sound, and when that sound stops, even for 2 seconds, something in your brain reads it as danger.
That's exactly it, the silence. The silence is what gets me. In a normal conversation, I'm fine. If I lose a word, I can take a moment. The other person sees me thinking and they wait. On the phone, there's just this empty air and I panic.
Miriam pauses. I wasn't expecting you to put it that precisely. Most people I work with spend 30 minutes circling around what you just said in 30 seconds. The silence is the thing.
I've been thinking about it for an hour, to be fair. I had plenty of time while I was feeling terrible about hanging up.
Here's what I want you to understand about that silence, and this genuinely changed how I think about phone calls. Silence on a phone call isn't a sign that something has gone wrong. It's a completely normal part of any conversation. The other person is also thinking. They're also looking something up, or writing something down, or simply processing what you said.
But it doesn't feel that way when you're in it. It feels like they're waiting for you and you're failing them somehow.
I know, and that feeling is the problem, not the silence itself. So one of the most useful things you can do is learn to fill that silence with something small and completely natural, not a perfect sentence, just a sound or a phrase that tells the other person you're still there and still thinking.
Like what kind of thing? Because I don't want it to sound strange or too casual for a formal call.
It never sounds strange. Think about what native speakers actually say in those moments. They say things like, just a moment, or let me think, or sorry, I just want to make sure I have that right. Short, simple, completely normal. The other person hears it and relaxes because the silence is explained.
That's such a small thing. I feel like I should have known that already. I've heard people say just a moment 100 times, and it never seemed like a technique. It just seemed like something people said.
That's exactly what makes it work. It's not a technique that sounds like a technique. It's just natural spoken English. And because it's so common, the moment you say it, you sound like someone who knows what they're doing, which gives you a little more time to actually figure out what you're doing.
I like that a lot. So it's almost like buying yourself a breath.
Exactly. You're buying a breath and you're giving the other person a signal. The signal says, I'm engaged, I'm present, nothing has gone wrong. That signal matters more than most people realize.
Can we go through a few of those phrases? Not a huge list, just the ones that feel the most natural for different moments in a call.
Of course, let's think about the different points where a phone call can feel uncertain. There's the opening, when someone answers and you need to begin. There's the middle, when you need to ask for something or check information. And there's the closing, when you need to end the call without it feeling abrupt.
The opening is my worst moment. That's where the door closes on me.
For the opening, the most important thing is having one single sentence ready before you dial. Not a script, just one clear sentence that launches you. Something like, "Hello, I'm calling about my appointment on Thursday." That one sentence does everything. It tells the person who you are in terms of purpose, it gives them context immediately, and it takes the pressure off you to improvise from nothing.
And if they ask something I'm not ready for right after that?
That's where the small phrases come in again. "Could you repeat that, please?" Or, "I just want to make sure I understand." Both give you a moment, and they're completely natural and professional. Nobody thinks less of you for asking. In fact, most people appreciate it because it shows you're paying attention.
What about when I need to end the call? I sometimes keep talking because I don't know how to close it cleanly.
Closing a call is its own small skill. The cleanest way is to summarize one thing and then signal the end. Something like, "Great, so I'm confirmed for Thursday at 2. Thank you so much for your help." That summary tells the other person the call was successful, and "thank you for your help" is a natural, warm way to signal you're ready to say goodbye.
That's so much cleaner than what I usually do, which is sort of trailing off and hoping they hang up first.
Which they sometimes do and sometimes don't, and then you're both waiting and nobody wants to be the one to go.
Exactly. It's almost funny when I say it out loud. Two people both waiting for the other person to end a call neither of them knows how to end.
It happens more than you think, even between native speakers. Phone calls have always had their own slightly awkward grammar. The good news is that once you have a few anchor phrases, the whole thing feels much more manageable. You're not improvising from nothing anymore. You have a shape to hang the conversation on.
I think that's what I've been missing. Not more words, just a shape. Something to hold on to when the silence comes.
And now that you've named it, you can practice it. Call back about that appointment today. Use your opening sentence. If the silence comes, let it come and fill it with "just a moment." See what happens.
I'm actually going to do that. I feel like I can now, which is not how I felt an hour ago.
That shift matters. Hold on to it. Phone calls get easier every time you make one, not because your English changes dramatically, but because the fear of the silence shrinks a little each time. And one day you realize the silence was never the enemy at all.
It was just a gap I didn't know how to cross yet.
And now you do. Go make that call.